Have you ever stopped to think about what actually happens when a disaster like a flood or a burst pipe hits your home? It's that chaotic moment we all dread. Well, today, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. We're breaking down the entire professional process, from that initial frantic phone call all the way to the final coat of paint. Okay, let's jump right in.
So I want you to imagine this for a second. You walk down to your basement and your foot just splashes into an inch of ice-cold water. A pipe has totally let go and you can see the situation is getting worse by the minute. It's that awful sinking feeling in your stomach. What do you even do? What happens now? That's exactly the journey we're about to take.
All right, so it all kicks off right here, at the moment the disaster strikes. This is that initial phase of shock and damage, the moment water gets into a place it has no business being. And believe me, the clock officially starts ticking right then and there.
And the thing is, the cause could be almost anything. We're not just talking about massive floods you see on the news. I mean, sure, it could be storm runoff, but it could also be pipes that freeze and burst in the winter. It could be a nasty sewage backup. Or, hey, it could be something as simple as your dishwasher leaking or a washing machine hose that finally gave up. Water can find its way in from anywhere.
And here's the absolute truth about water damage. Time is your #1 enemy. Water is relentless. It moves so fast, wicking up drywall like a sponge, seeping under your floors, and spreading through the very foundation of your house. The damage doesn't just stay put. It expands literally every single minute you wait.
So that leads us right into what is, without a doubt, the most critical phase of this whole thing, the first 48 hours. This is where the professionals come in, and it becomes a flat-out race against the clock to stop much bigger problems from taking hold, especially mold.
And just look at this timeline. It really shows you what that race looks like. So, from the second the water gets in, a professional crew can be there in as little as 90 minutes. But here's the kicker. Look at that 24-hour mark. That's when mold can actually start to grow. And by 48 hours, all that other secondary damage, like wood swelling up, materials breaking down, it all gets so much worse.
You know, that 90-minute response time is an industry standard for a very good reason. Getting that pro-level extraction equipment on site that fast is often the single biggest factor between a cleanup you can manage and a complete, catastrophic renovation. It literally stops the water in its tracks, which saves the structure, and, you guessed it, keeps the final costs way down.
So the standing water is gone, but the house itself is still soaked. So how in the world do you actually dry a building? Well, that brings us to the really cool part, the science of drying. This is where high-tech gear and proven techniques completely take over.
But first, we need to get a couple of key terms straight. You'll hear these a lot. First is water mitigation. Think of this as the emergency room phase. It's triage. The only goal is to stop the bleeding, extract water, stabilize everything, and prevent it from getting worse. Then comes water restoration. That's the rebuilding phase, where crews are focused on repairing and replacing everything to get your home back to the way it was.
And you should know, this whole process isn't just a bunch of guesswork. It is all guided by a super strict science-based rulebook called the IRCRS 500 standard. It's the official guide for the pros. It defines everything from how to classify the water, is it clean, gray, or black water, all the way to setting the exact scientific drying goals for every material. It makes sure the job is done right.
And to meet those standards, they bring in the big guns. I'm talking about huge truck-mounted extractors, incredibly powerful commercial dehumidifiers that can pull gallons and gallons of moisture right out of the air, and an army of high-speed air movers. And then there's the high-tech stuff, like thermal cameras and perfectly calibrated moisture meters.
See, the real goal isn't just to dry what you can see and feel. The real enemy is the hidden moisture, the water that's trapped inside your walls, under your cabinets, or deep in your subfloor. That's what tools like thermal imaging cameras are for. They literally let you see the invisible, making sure not a single pocket of moisture is left behind to turn into a nightmare mold problem later on. Okay, so once those moisture meters give the all clear and confirm the structure is bone dry, scientifically dry according to the standards, the whole focus shifts. We move from saving the property to rebuilding it. This is the journey from ruin back to rebuilt.
And this part of the process is just as systematic. It starts with a careful demolition of anything that just couldn't be saved. Then, all those surfaces get treated with antimicrobials to kill any potential for mold. After that, it's all about putting it back together. New framing, new drywall, new floors, cabinets, and of course, it all ends with the finishing touches. Paint, trim, a deep clean before you do that final walkthrough to make sure it's perfect.
You know, one of the biggest benefits of a professional service is that you get a single point of contact, a project manager who coordinates everything. You're not left trying to juggle a plumber, then an electrician, then a drywall guy, then a painter. It's one seamless process from that first emergency call all the way to the end. That alone removes a huge amount of stress.
All right, the house is getting put back together. But what about the paperwork, the bills? That brings us to the final and often most confusing piece of the puzzle, navigating the aftermath. And yeah, this is all about dealing with insurance.
Insurance can feel really complicated, but this chart helps break it down. As a general rule, your policy covers damage that is sudden and accidental, things like a burst pipe or a washing machine that overflows. What's usually not covered is gradual damage, like a slow leak you ignored for months. And a really important one, overland flooding, like from a river, is almost never covered. For that, you need a separate flood insurance policy.
And here's a pro tip for how the experts make the claims process smoother. They use industry-standard software, Xactimate is a big one, that uses the exact same pricing data as the insurance companies. So when they write up the estimate, they're basically speaking the adjuster's language. This eliminates almost all of the back-and-forth arguments over costs, which means fewer delays and way fewer out-of-pocket surprises for you.
So after all that, the emergency call, the scientific drying, the meticulous rebuild, the water is gone. Your home looks like it's back to normal. But here's the question you have to ask. What did it leave behind? Because if that process wasn't done right, the answer is often hidden moisture and invisible mold, just waiting. And that is why a professional, science-backed approach isn't just about a repair, it's really about your peace of mind.